Okay, well, anyway, this is the first movie. This is Freeze Cracked here, and I thought I'd try and show you some basic reduction on what is, or what would be for a lot of people, a very difficult rock to work. This is a piece of pretty hard Texas Pedernales rock, and it's got a big old bulb on one end, a little crack in here, and it's just got some issues with it. But I thought I'd try and do something with it and show you a little bit of that anyway. So we'll just start off. First thing I'm going to try and do is get a little bit of this big area, and you see there came out a little crack from a freeze crack there, but just get a little bit of the end knocked off and stuff. I want to get an angle so I can come back and shoot down this thickness right here. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not used to being on camera, so I got a little camera nerves going on here. Okay, so now I'm going to support the back edge and support the front edge on my leg because it's too long to fit in my hand. I'm going to try and drive way down this thickness right here. And what you can see is it went all the way down it and kind of blew off the side here, an overshot flake. And that's really what you need. You need a lot of fast, effective reduction. The fewer flakes you take, the less width and less size you lose. And if you take big flakes and strong flakes, it can save you taking a whole bunch of little flakes. And you want to use natural platforms and stuff as much as you can, because if you're constantly tinkering with the edges, you're losing width. Okay, so I'm supporting it on the edge with my finger, got it back jammed in my leg, and just came on down a little bit more right in there, flattening that out. This platform isn't strong enough. So I've got a ridge right along in here, and I'll try and just reduce a little bit there. And didn't do very much. I'm way too affected by the camera being on. It makes me a big problem for me. But I'll maybe settle down and get rid of my camera nerves after a while. Or practice this enough to where I get better at it. Okay, so I've got an area here that's like a platform. I've got some thickness in through here, so let's just see if I can do something on that. Okay, so we overshot to over there and flatten that out a little bit. Now I'm just going to try and hit above the edge. Right on here, I'm going to hit above the edge, so this doesn't matter. That would hinge, but it's got a hinge coming into it anyway. But I want to try and undercut all that and just come through here a little ways and see what happens. Missed it. Missed it again. There we go. I don't know if you can see, but got rid of that. So this side is flattening somewhat. Not my best work. I have not been hitting lately, and it definitely shows. Plus with the camera nerves, but anyway. So now we'll try and take a little bit of that off. I'm hitting kind of down. So we're hitting down into it, and now I got a big problem because here's a big old freeze crack right there. So that, and I can see on the side that it looks like it goes up into here. So actually I can see the traces of it right along on the outside over there. So that cancels crispness on this particular rock to lose all that length. Because when you can see the little rust stains in that crack isn't going to be healed on into there. But I'll just go ahead, since I'm making this test video, and do a little bit more with this and see what happens. Of course, I have enough rock here. I can do a pretty decent clovis and stuff out of this rock, but it'd only be about 4 inches long, which is not my preference. But at any rate, so since I got this crack and this is likely to fall in half right here at any time, I'll go ahead and try and reduce the weight on this somewhat and thin out the end. You always want to thin the ends before the middle anyway. I'm trying to get my hand all the way back down along it to support the back end. So there comes off a pretty good bit of that thickness. And now we'll come above the edge a little bit, and then just translating the force across by the support underneath. You know, I was hitting down, but it can't go down because my fingers are pushing real hard, and so it makes it run laterally. really don't like the way that crack looks. I just can't imagine that holding together. So the question sometimes becomes whether you want to cut your losses and go ahead and make it fail or not. That's a lot thinner than it was. And I'm trying to get it up and around a little bit here so that I can start shooting across the back side of it. Like I say, it's all just a technical exercise at this point. So there's that freeze crack. I don't know if you can see it. It's still definitely there. And what I usually do is I go ahead and I'm more careful because they're there, but I keep working the thing until it falls apart and is on the mat, you know, if it'll let me. And if it wins, then it wins. Just trying to do a couple little bevel strikes here. Dang. To try and be able to go back the other way. I'm trying to raise that edge a little bit to go back the other way. But I've got kind of a concavity here, so that's not that great anyway. I'm going to leave that for a second. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to leave things like they are and work something else. I'm going to see if I can shoot back over across here. Come down a little bit, trying to raise that corner. Sometimes to fudge between losing length or losing width, I just kind of work a corner, and then you lose neither one really on the width or whatever. Well, it's raised a little bit. I don't know how well this is going to work, but we're going to try and come in with it. Okay, so I don't know if you can see that, but shoot into that hump a little bit, trying to get a little bit of that hump. And actually, I think I'll try and raise it a little bit more and take another shot back into that same area. You definitely want to get your cortex abraded, because cortex is always a different consistency from the regular rock. And if you don't get an area of cortex abraded off and hit on regular rock, it'll dampen your blow and it'll make the flake not run right. So I was supporting both of those really good, and you know, just made it run along there, and it's flattening that a lot, which is the goal there. So let's see, I've just got all kinds of issues with this rock. This was a great technical challenge rock, but of course when you're not used to shooting video, giving yourself a technical challenge on it isn't that great. What I did there was just bring that up a little bit, and there's a little thickness area right along in here that I just want to remove real quick. So now that's gone completely. Came in here and blew out some. So you can see the rock is flattening. And I haven't really lost anything on the width or anything, and just sort of working above and below the center line, and so the center line is more or less still what it was. Hit into there and took out quite a bit of thickness. I kind of want to tap that down, and I still want to. It's dangerous to hit on the end. You see, I've got my finger on the other end, and I've got my finger on this end, but still, when you go dinking like that, you're doing all this floppiness stuff that makes the things fall in half a lot of the time. What they call end snap. And especially like that, that was that freeze crack, and it just gave, and you can see it's rusted all the way in the middle of it. And so it wasn't going to hold, because you can see where the rust goes to, there wasn't enough thickness left on that rock to possibly have held. So it's no big deal. It's partially because I end snapped it, and you can see I took my flake. There's the flake right there that I was trying to do, but the shock, that lateral vibratory type shock stuff is deadly on preforms, and a lot of times it will just snap them. So anyway, so now I got this. I'm going to knock this down and then shoot one across there. So that's gone down, and then I braid it heavily. because on these early stage things, I'm trying to take quite a bit of meat with each hit. So now I'm supporting way out there, and I've got it supported up there, and I got it supported in the back of my hand. And I hit it pretty hard in there, and you see it overshot. It comes all the way across. And overshots are so great because, you know, I didn't lose any width over there, and I'm thinning. And that's what you try and do, and that's the value of those a lot of the time. And again, the fewer flakes you use, the less width and stuff you lose. Okay, so I've got a little ridge along here, and I'm going to hit right here and try and drive across there a little bit, and I'm supporting it. And you can see it went all the way to here, so from there to there. You always want to make sure you go more than halfway if you're trying to thin, because you're overlapping them. So now I'm going to hold right here and hit it back across here and get kind of a burin flake going off of there. If I hit it. Okay, so I hit it right there, and there's my little burin flake, comes off, and that one came all the way over to there, and just comes in and sort of smooths out. So we're making a little bit of progress. I mean, the rock is a lot smaller because of losing that end, but that was going to happen no matter what I did. So anyway, you're still saying, well, what do you do with this? Well, what you do with it is, basically, if it's your test rock and it's a test video and you're about 11 minutes into it, you might ought to just turn it off and forget it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else to do real quick that's interesting. And it's not really all that interesting, but I got this big old edge here, big old round, thick area, and the way you attack that depends a lot on where you visualize your point in this thing. If the point uses that end, then it's a problem, but if I orient the point like this or something, then it's no longer valuable, and you can just take and come and tilt it downward and take a flake downward to give you a steep angle for your flake back the other way. And then you raise the edge a little bit because you had too low a platform there. And so now you can reduce some of the thickness right in here by striking that and taking off and getting rid of some of your thickness there. And that was on the right side of it. So now there's on the left side of it, there's a little ridge here, kind of a semi-burin, and come all the way down into here with that, and you can see how flat that is now. I don't go for convexity most of the time. The only time I go for convexity is after I do my initial flattening and I get something down about as thin as I want it for the finished point. Then if I'm going to make something like a Clovis or a Scott's Bluff or something like that, I may start at that point starting to establish some convexity. But I don't do it until I get this thing pretty thin, because climbing hills doesn't work very well. I mean, it's doable, and a little bit of convexity will make flakes run, but a little bit of power will make them run too, and then you're not relying upon the surface contour as much. So anyway, I think I'm gonna stop with this right here, because again, it's hard for me to concentrate when I'm trying to talk and think and do a video at the same time. And I got some little points across in there, so I'll go watch it and see what I think, and maybe I'll post it, and maybe you'll never see it. Bye for now. Freeze cracked.